A fork and a knife? Have you ever had pizza before?
What's up, guys? So, as you can see, Bry and I have pizza that is not from Papa John's or Pizza Hut. I don't really eat Pizza Hut or Domino's. This is homemade, low-key. We didn't do the crust, but we did everything else. I hated that. But check out Bry's channel. We made the pizza on her channel. And so, yeah, now on this channel, we're going to do kind of like a podcast, but not a podcast because you can see us moving. But yeah. So in this, we're going to be talking about CTP. We're going to be talking about the first 6 months to a year of discipleship. And then we're going to be talking about someone during those time periods that have encouraged us and spurred us on. So, yes, without further ado, this is Bry Ventura.
Hello there.
So, Bry, what do you think about CTP?
Okay, what did I think about CTP? So basically, I'm going to Ghana and Zimbabwe for about 1.5 months or so.
The rest of the summer.
Basically, yes. And so we're going to be there just like in Ghana. I'm just going to be like sharing my faith on campuses and things like that. And so I think that I was really nervous about that. Like, as it's getting closer, I'm kind of like, okay, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it's kind of one of those situations. And so I think that CTP was a really cool opportunity for me to like get like the last bit of training, but also to be able to just like be refreshed and kind of like encouraged, I guess. Like, I feel like the lessons were a perfect balance of like, okay, get up and do something, like do better, but also you're doing great and like it'll all be okay kind of thing. Right. So that was really cool, and I feel like that was really what I needed right before I leave.
The best part for me was the mission team. I think our group was just really cool. We were in a group with like 6 or 7 other people. Something like that. 8, 6, 7, 9. Right, 25. But no, it was like 10 of us in the group as a whole. And it was just cool to see us, in action going at it. And I think that encouragement that we gave each other, even when things weren't working out perfectly or something messed up, you know what I mean, was really cool. At one point, I think what was super encouraging was just when everybody was street preaching / singing, and we were all just kind of like hyping each other up. It was kind of a culmination of like our team building coming to a head, and it was super cool to see that, So for me overall, the biggest takeaway was just be surrounded by people who are going to encourage you, you know what I mean? Because I think that's what it was. It was just a time to be encouraged. I think summertime can be hard for some people, especially if you're introverted, you don't like to talk to people, and you don't like to hang out with people, and you just want to binge watch Gordon Ramsay's shows. So,
hi, my name is Bry.
So, yeah, I think it was just great for me to see that and see, like, okay, like, it's fine to be around people because they're going to encourage you and they're going to push you forward when you feel like you don't want to anymore. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but I don't know, what was your takeaway or whatever?
Yeah, I think specifically for a takeaway, I feel like something I really took away was like, at the end of the day, it comes down to like how much you care. And I think that came, my eyebrow itches. I think that came from a lot of different places. Like, yes, there was a guy, I forget his name. The one
Ben Barnett.
Yeah, Ben Barnett.
Great. Amazing.
It was by far the best lesson. And I think that, like, that lesson, he specifically, like, touched on, like, you have to go after these things, like, knowledge and experience and all this stuff isn't going to just, like, flow into your brain. And so I think that was really cool. But I think that paired with Jordan Massey's lesson, where he literally was like, I'm convinced that, like, if you're not going after these things, it's just because you don't care. And I think that really hit me because even, like, when we were, like, out on Tech's campus and, like, with our mission teams and stuff like that, like, street preaching, singing, like, all those things, like, those experiences aren't things that, like, I would naturally do. Like, those experiences take like intentionality to do. And so I think that's something I really took away in CTP of like, if I want to get better at these things, if I want to learn this stuff, if I want to really go after it, I have to like care enough to go after it. And so I really took that away, especially too, I think by like seeing our team and seeing like the way that people were really trying to be out of themselves. I think really inspired me to do that all the time and not just like when we're in the hype of like CTP right. and everything's great and like whatever. So I think that was really cool to even like hear but also see put in action.
For
so
sure.
yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of that was just super inspiring, and I think one person we had in our group, Alana, she is, I don't know how old she is spiritually. I think she's like 6 months or 5, something like that. Really? Yeah, she's really young. She just got baptized.
I did not. I literally thought she was at least. I thought she was like my age.
No.
That's crazy.
Yeah, she's really young spiritually, and so like for me in my head, it just took me back because when we were in the car on the way to Tropical Smoothie or whatever, she was asking for our input and our advice about how to go about the first 6 months to a year of discipleship. Mm-hmm. And so I guess my first question to you would be like, what was that like for you?
So I'm about like a year and a couple months old. And I think that's more like recently been a thing for me of like, oh, I need people. Like I need to know I need people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's my nature, but I think specifically when I was younger, she's just, I think specifically when I was younger, a huge thing for me was like, I guess like learning how to be balanced. I think I was so on fire and I think I was like, I want to do this and I want to do this and this is my dream and this is my dream and all these things, and that's great. Like we should always be dreaming. We should always have like goals and ambition and all these things, because I think that's what really keeps like our walks with God like interesting and fun and always growing. Mm-hmm. But I think I took it to like a little bit of an extreme of like, oh, like, I'm doing too much. Like, I literally remember being so tired, like, so burnt out. Like, I was just constantly in this cycle of, like, okay, I'm at this all-time high, I'm doing all this stuff, like, feeling great, and then I would literally crash and be, like, at home talking to no one, like, in bed for days because I was so tired and I was so drained and all these things. And so I think just learning, like, that it's not about all the things that I do. Mm-hmm. And I don't think my motive was ever like, oh, I need to do all these things to like whatever. But I think like I had subconsciously gone in this mindset of like, I have to do all this stuff. And I think I really got to a point where I was like, okay, like I have to really look at what is my priority right now? Like what do I need and what do I want to do like outwardly? And I think if I learned that balance of like really prioritizing things earlier on, I think I would have saved myself like a lot of, I don't know, I think just a lot of burnout. Like I think I was just in this cycle of being burnt out all the time, and I think it really impacted other areas of my life. Right. And kind of made like God and ministry and everything like that feel like it was so much. Yeah, when really at the end of the day, like it shouldn't be that way. And so, yes.
Just based off of everything you said, it seems like you went through a lot of learning experiences.
Oh, yeah.
So what did you learn about yourself? Like, what's the biggest thing?
The biggest thing I learned about myself? I think the biggest thing I learned about myself is that which this sounds so dumb, but I genuinely didn't know this about myself. Like, I cope with a lot of, like, my stresses and my anxieties by doing more. I think a lot of people deal with, like, their stress and, like, change and just different things. I think we all deal with that stuff differently. But for me, when I start getting stressed about things, when I start getting anxious about things going on or a lot of changes happening in my life, I start to just like busy myself. Like I'm like, okay, let's pick up this new project and let's do this and let's do, just to like keep going. And I never, like, I've always been that way with other things, like, just busying myself all the time, but I don't think I ever really knew why. But I think when I started really, like, spending time with God every day and, like, sitting down and evaluating my life, I think I started to see, oh, like, there's a correlation here.
Right.
Like, I think through that I learned a lot how to, like, just sit and be with God.
Right.
And not have to, like, I would even busy, like, my time with God. Like, I would feel like I had to read 5 chapters of the Bible and pray for an hour in order for it to be, like, whatever. Yeah, like, spiritual, whatever. When really, like, I had to learn, like, some days I'm just gonna pray for 30 minutes. Some days I'm just gonna sit in silence. Or, like, and that's okay. Like, that doesn't, whatever. And so I think that was my main learning point through that. But, yes. just,
and it's not LaCroix. She wanted LaCroix. There's no more LaCroix, so. LaCroix, if you want to sponsor this video for...
I would cry.
That's her brand, okay? Anytime something happens, she's so yes, turning into Brienne. So yeah, I can agree 100% with you about that, just being busy, and I think that almost comes in with a lack of trust in God, being able to do His part. Because it's almost like you're trying to overcompensate for what you think may not be there. And so I think that's something I have to work on too, of just like for other people, when I'm involved in, let's say, a group project or whatever, in my mind, I'm like, they're probably not going to do this, so let me just go ahead and do X, Y, and Z for them. And the like in life that can work because we're humans, but with God, it's like you can never do His work. So based on that, what we just talked about, what advice would you have given old Brie during that time period when she's just like, it's too much?
I think sitting down at the beginning of every week and looking at all the things in my schedule and really praying about it and really, like, evaluating why I'm doing what I'm doing and if it's something I really want to do or if it's something that I'm just doing because I think I have to. Because I think now that I've gotten older, and I think, like, even, like, last year was my first year of college, my first year moving out, like, all these things were changing. But I think now I'm finally starting to get into a groove where I'm like, I really love the things I'm doing. Like, I really love even things that don't have to do with God, like making videos or whatever it is. Like, I think I'm learning how to, like, do the things I really love and not just do the things that I think I should do. Or the things I think that I need to do to be, like, whatever. And so, but I think, like, earlier on, I think that really helps, like, keep your motivation centered on Jesus, because it's like, if you're, like, going out and sharing your faith because you think you have to, you may not even, you may not even know you're doing that, you know? And so I think that's something that, like, could really be a turning point for a lot of people, and definitely would have been for me. But
yeah, no, I like that. I'm gonna actually try that, because there are a lot of the times where my week will go by and I'm just like, what did I do this week? And I think that is powerful, just like not knowing what you did because it wasn't meaningful at all to you. But to get back to the point of what advice I would give, it would definitely be from my favorite scripture, Mark 2. Where it's the man on the mat, he's carried by his 4 people. And for me, I think that was just so powerful, because I'm like, man, do I have a 4? Like, what does that mean to have a 4? What does that look like for me? And I think over time, when I was so alone, or I felt alone or whatever, that was what I lacked. I lacked a 4. And so when I finally got my 4, it was very exciting. But something else I would tell my old self would be the fact that 4 is going to change. It's not always going to be the same. And I think that's what a lot of people get stuck on when they're new to discipleship, is they get used to the same friends, and then when one friendship falls out, she's just like, yeah, talk about it. But when one friendship falls apart, it's kind of just like the end of the world, and people don't know how to bounce back from it. And that's something important now during 1 to 2, because I think you're in an age where this is where the rising leaders are coming. You know what I mean? This is when it's like, okay, you're a leader, you're about to be a leader, step up. And so I think when you have those 4, if not 8 at this point or whatever, it's like those are the people who are going to keep you grounded and be like, okay, I'm training you up to be better or to be more in whatever way you want to do. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think honestly that's something I've had to learn a lot too, especially in my first year, is like learning how to take my friendships seriously and to value them, but not to put my trust and security in them. Because I think sometimes, like, that's the real tea. Because I think sometimes we can, instead of like valuing and like cherishing and like really being intentional in our friendships, we can put trust and security in our friendships. And like, I think it's really easy to think they're the same thing. Like for me, it was really easy to be like, oh, like I go to you when every single thing goes wrong and like all this stuff. That means that we're so good, like friends and like such good friends and we're like thriving and whatever. When in reality, that just means that if that person isn't there or if something happens and that person's not in my life or it's only for a season, then I'm just left with nothing.
Right.
So I think really learning like how to like have your mat carriers, like have your people that are really there for you, but also ultimately they're there because they're bringing you to Jesus.
For sure. But aside from all that, I want to go into, you know, I guess people that may be in your form that have inspired you throughout this time. And like,
I think 2 people come to mind right off the bat, and for 2 really completely different reasons.
Okay.
So first, I definitely think of Holly.
Let's go, Holly.
So Holly was one of my roommates. She actually just moved out today, so it's like a pretty touchy subject for me.
Kind of fresh.
But I think what really inspires me about Holly is that she is very good at knowing what her motivation is. I think I really admire that about her life, of like, you can so clearly see that like everything she does is with a purpose, and the purpose is always for God. And if it's not, she's not going to do it. Like she doesn't very easily give into like cultural, societal pressures. She's just very much knows her motivation, and so I really love that about Holly. And I think the second person, it's crazy because this person, I'm not like very close with them,
right, per
se, but I think anyways, moving on. But I think I've really learned so much about just by watching their life. And that's your girl Kirsty Porter.
Okay.
Because I think Kirsty, I'm not best friends with her. We don't hang out every day. Like, we don't text casually, whatever. Right. But I think Kirsty is the type of person that really pours into people when she can. Sure, yeah. Like, she may not be able to hang out all the time, but if she's standing next to you, like, in line for something, she's going to talk to you. She's going to ask you about your life. She's going to, like, really try and love you. And it's very genuine and it's very real. And you can tell that she like actually wants to know about your life, and she actually wants to love you in that moment.
For sure.
And even just the example I think she sets for all of us. She's our campus leader. And I think I've just been able to really like see her maturity, even removed from her life. Like, I'm not like in her life, but I can see like and so I think that's like a huge inspiration for me, because I want people to be inspired by me and not have to be right up in my life. Like, I want them to be able to see it from far away, because I think that's how Jesus was. And so I think those are the 2 people that are consistently like whatever in my life. But what about you?
Obviously, I think everybody knows Tony.
Let's go, Tony.
Tony was there from day one, and she's been there, I think, in our friendship. I've never had a sister before, so I don't really know how that whole dynamic works, but I feel like God really placed her in my life for a reason, and that sister role has been filled. Where she's like a sister, mother, best friend all at the same time. You know what I mean? And so I think for her, she just is an amazing leader overall. I think just the fact that she is so bold, but yet she is so sensitive and so like vulnerable at the same time. It's very interesting. She's like a bundle of opposites, if you will. How does that phrase go?
If I will.
If you will. But yeah, and I just think all of that inspires me, just her in general, just her, how strong she is and how much she loves God is so apparent in how she loves other people, you know what I mean? And I think that's something I can definitely struggle in. So for sure, like I feel like Tony, she just exemplifies a lot of things that, you know, I think a lot of people want in their walk with God. And it's in a way of not even for other people, but just for God. Like, she just works that hard for him. And so I think that's the coolest thing ever. But anyways, yes, guys, that is the end of our video. That's the end of this podcast. I need to look up the definition of a podcast because
I think this is just...
Define podcast.
As a noun, it means a digital audio file made available on the internet for downloading to a computer or mobile device, typically available as a...
Okay, that's enough. So this is not a podcast. Whatever, it's going to be a video broadcast. All right, that's it. Bree, do you have any final words?
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for eating pizza.
You're welcome.
Okay. Had a great time.
See you guys later. Check out Bree's channel, but actually don't, because, you know. But actually do if you want to see more of me. No, I'm kidding. But no, actually, yes, Brienne, she does love to edit. She loves to make videos, so please check out her channel. Link will sadly be in the description below. Anywho, okay, bye guys.